Hello, everyone. My name is Priyanka Mehta, and I'm a part of the Hamilton Lease Accounting team at Cognitus Consulting. Welcome to this webinar today. We will be discussing the special events and functionalities that can be performed in Hamilton Engine. Today, our speakers are Mr. Budi Rahman and his team member, Zati. Usually we have Mr. Mehta, but we had a conflict with his overlapping meetings, so he will not be able to join us today. So during the session, please feel free to communicate with the speakers through question and answer. And at the end of the session, we will definitely take time to address any questions you might have. There is an icon at the bottom right of your screen, which says raise hand. Throughout the session today, we will be discussing the special events such as bargain purchase option. This is an option for the lessee to purchase the asset at the end of the lease term. Also, we will be discussing about guaranteed residual value. This is the value of the leased asset at the end of the lease term. Following, we will be discussing early termination. This is how it refers to the dissolution of a contract before the term that it has ended. We will also be discussing and illustrating tiered pricing. This is about the split based on tier pricing with different period that has been recognized at the commencement date. Lastly, we will go over the cumulative catch-up adjustment or backdated. This is when the contract is only finalized in the period subsequent to contract commencement or effective date. Thus, in the month where the contract is finalized, the result in the cumulative numbers is being recorded. Now I will pass it on to Budi Rahman. He will give a brief introduction of himself and his team member. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka. Hi, everyone. I, Budi Rahman, Hamilton Solution Owner for Lease Accounting under IFRS 16. I've been implementing SAP for quite some time for various industries and sizes. Today, we'll be discussing special events like Priyanka has just explained. Now I'm going to call Ijati, which going to run through all the sessions. Ijati?
Thank you, Budi and Priyanka. Hi, everyone. I am Izati. I'm part of Hamilton team in Cognitus Asia in Malaysia. So today in this demo, I will show you the step-by-step on how to simulate these 5 use cases in Hamilton Engine. So I will begin with sharing my screen. So without any further ado, let's begin with our first use case, bargain purchase option. So as Priyanka has said at the beginning of the webinar, the bargain purchase option is an option to purchase the leased asset at the beginning The bargain purchase is an option to purchase the leased asset at the price below expected fair value at the end of the lease. So when the bargain purchase option takes place, it's definitely going to have a couple of effects on the accounting. So the first one, the lessee is going to include the present value of the bargain purchase option price in the lease liability. And the second is the annual depreciation need to amortize the asset over its entire economic life. So let's go through the example for this case on the next slide. So let's assume that we have a Ferrari sport car for a fixed rental of 1,000 currency unit per month, payable at the beginning of each month. The lease commences on 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2028. With the incremental borrowing rate of 6% per annum. So here we understand that this contract is just a basic scenario. So all we need to do is the normal inception. And then after 5 years, the lessee has agreed to buy the asset for 15,000 currency unit, which is substantially lower than expected future fair price of the asset with the incremental borrowing rate of 7% per annum. And the economic life of the asset is 12 years, which is longer than the lease agreement. So this is when the bargain purchase option happened. There are special programs for this scenario that we need to run, and I will show you after we load the normal inception contract. So let's move along. To simulate this use case in Hamilton engine, as usual, we have to prepare an Excel file that contains all the information of the contract. So in this case, for the use case, we are going to use LU01 for the inception. The classification and variant is a group of the lease. The lease agreement ID or header ID is the original contract number from the external. The lease ID is the type of the lease. The contract start date is 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2028. The payment method for this case is advance, and the payment cycle is monthly. So let's go through the pricing information, which is the pricing start date should be the same. Is the same as the contract start date, which is 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2028, with the payment of 1,000 currency unit at the beginning of each month and the incremental borrowing rate of 6% per annum. So after we done fill in everything, now we are ready to load the inception contract in the engine. So go to your SFP and run tcode/cogn/16tc_raw_excel. So right here, we browse the Excel file and execute with process immediately. So now the contract has been successfully loaded. Let's check the lease schedule of the main dashboard by running tcode/cogn/16tc_LCD. At the top of the bar right here, just specify 1 and press enter. So this is our contract 19680. Select this contract and click on lease schedule. So as you can see right here, the lease schedule is showing in contract period where the lease liability is 120,000 currency unit, and it will amortize for 1,000 for the whole 10 years. And also for the ROU beginning is 91,166 currency unit that has been calculated based on the present value, and it will depreciate for 760 until the year of 2028 on the straight line basis. So you can see that this is a lease schedule that not consider any bargain purchase option. It's just a normal inception contract. So then continuing to the previous example, after 5 years, the entity reasonably certain to exercise the bargain purchase option. So as I said before, to see the impact or the changes on the contract, we need to run the special program that consider the revaluation. So we have to run tcode/cogn/16tc_vcmod. So right here, the accounting principle, we are using 16. The use case ID is LBUY, which stands for bargain purchase option that has been configured in the system. Specify our contract number. The lease type, no need to specify anything. It will auto default based on our contract number. The lease item number is defaulted to 1. The date reasonably certain to exercise the bargain purchase option. So for our use case is 1st January 2024 with the incremental borrowing rate of 7% and the amount of 15,000 currency unit. So in the second section, we have to specify the economic life of the asset, whether is it longer than the lease tenure or the same as the lease tenure. From our example, the economic life is longer than the lease tenure, which is 31st December 2030, which is 12 years in total from our contract tenure. And then lastly, we have to specify the payment date, whether it is any future date or lease end date. So in the contract has already specified that the lessee can buy the asset at the end of the contract term for 15,000 currency unit. So we choose the second option, untick the run lease schedule report and click on execute button. So now the contract has been remeasured. To see the full detail, go back to our main dashboard by running tcode /cogn/16tc_LCD, specify our contract number, select and click on lease schedule. So right here at the year of 2024, the contract has been remeasured where the depreciation has been recalculated based on the additional liability with amount of 15,000 currency unit. And we have one final payment of 16,000 currency unit, which include bargain purchase option amount. After the end of the contract term, the rental will be zero, which is no more payment will be made. However, at the end of that year, we have additional 2 years of the life of asset, which is until 2030 with a new straight line depreciation that has been recalculated with a new discount rate of 7%, which is 670 currency unit. So this is how we simulate the bargain purchase option. So we will continue to the next use case, which is guaranteed residual value. So the residual guaranteed value guarantee is a guaranteed value of the lease asset at the end of the lease term. For the lessee, maximum amount lessor can require to pay out at the end of the lease. So basically, based on the accounting treatment, the previous use case bargain purchase option and guaranteed residual value practically the same. The difference is that the new depreciation for bargain purchase option, we have to amortize the asset over its entire economic life, where guaranteed residual value will amortize based on the contract agreement. So let's continue to the example of guaranteed residual value. So let's assume we have a Ferrari sport car for a fixed rental of 1,000 currency unit per month, payable at the beginning of each month. The lease commences on 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2028 with the incremental borrowing rate of 6% per annum. This inception example is the same as our previous use case. So after 2 years, the lessor renegotiate with the lessee and the lessee agreed to guarantee a residual value of the car at the end of the contract being 10,000 currency unit, and the incremental borrowing rate is 7% per annum at this time. So at this point, the lessee has agreed to pay additional 10,000 currency unit at the end of the contract. And we need to run the same special program in the engine where I will show you after we load the inception contract. So as usual, we have to prepare an Excel format, which require all the contract information. So the use case for inception is LU01. The classification of variant and lease ID just remain as it is. The lease agreement ID or header ID is the original contract number from the external. The start date of the contract is 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2028. The method of the payment is an advance. The payment cycle is in monthly. So let's go to the pricing information, where the pricing start date and end date is the same as the contract date, which is 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2028, with the amount of 1,000 currency unit and incremental borrowing rate of 6%. So now we are ready to load the contract in the engine, run the same T code for the Excel upload, and browse the Excel file we just filled in for the residual value, and execute with process immediately. So now the contract has been created. Let's go to the lease schedule to see the detail. Specify one on the at this bar, and this is our contract, which is 19681. Select this contract and click on lease schedule. So the figure is the same as our previous use case, which is the lease liability is 120,000 currency unit, and it will amortize for 1,000 currency unit at the beginning of each month for the whole 10 years. And then the beginning ROU asset is 91,166 currency unit that has been calculated based on the present value, and it will depreciate for 760 currency unit until the year of 2028 on the straight line basis. So this is just a normal inception contract. So based on our example, after 2 years, the lessee has agreed to guarantee a residual value of the lease at the end of the contract. So to see the changes, we have to run a special program we done for our previous use case, which is /cogn/16tc_vcmod. So here we have to input all the information based on our example. So the accounting principle is 16. For this use case, we're going to use LGRV, which is stand for guaranteed residual value that has been configured in the system. Our contract number is 19681. The list tab just remain blank. It will auto default. And then the date reasonable certain for our case is 1st January 2021. The incremental borrowing rate is 7% with the amount of 10,000 currency unit. So the second section for this case, our asset is the same as the lease tenure, and the payment date is until the lease end date. Now we are ready to execute and see the impact. So untick the run lease schedule report and execute. So now the contract has been changed based on residual value information. So go back to the dashboard. Specify our contract number and click on lease schedule. So as you can see, at the year of 2021, okay, the contract has been remeasured, where the depreciation has been recalculated based on the additional liability with amount of 10,000 currency unit on the straight line basis. And note that we have one final payment of 11,000 currency unit, which include the residual value at the end of the lease. And as I said before, that the accounting treatment for this use case and previous use case is practically the same. So the difference is that the guaranteed residual value, the economic life of the asset is the same as a tenure. So this is how you simulate the residual value case. So let's move along with our third use case, which is early termination. So the early termination contract refers to the dissolution of the contract before the term of the contract has concluded. This will usually occur due to the breach of the contract, which involve a party failing to uphold the terms of the contract they signed. the early termination will incur cancellation penalty. So for this example, we're going to make a very simple without any penalty. So let's assume a lessee has taken an office for a fixed rental of 3,000 currency unit per month payable at the beginning of each month. The lease commences on 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2028 with the incremental borrowing rate of 6% per annum. So after 5 years, the lessee provides a notice to a lessor of intents to terminate the contract, and the lessee starts serving 3-month notice period from 1st November 2023 until 31st January 2024. So here we understand that the contract is terminated with 3-month notice period. We have to load termination case where I will show you after we load the inception contract. So as usual, we have to prepare an Excel file for the inception without consider any termination information. So for inception, we are going to use LU01. The classification variant is a group of the lease. The lease agreement ID or header ID is the original contract number from the external. The lease ID is the lease type. The contract start date is 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2028. With the payment method is in advance and the payment cycle is monthly. So go to the pricing information where the pricing date is the same as the contract date, which is 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2028 with the invoice amount of 3,000 currency unit and 6% of borrowing rate. So now we are ready to load the Excel in the system. Run tcode/cogn/systemtc_raw_excel and browse the Excel file for the early termination and execute with process immediately. So now the contract has been created. Let's go to the main dashboard to see the detail. Specify one, and this is our contract 19682. Select this contract and click on lease schedule. So here the lease schedule is showing in contract period where the lease liability is 357,000 currency unit and it will amortize for 3,000 currency unit at the beginning of each month for the whole 10 years. So the beginning of ROU asset is 273,498 currency unit that has been calculated based on the present value, and it will depreciate for 2,280 until the year of 2028 on the straight line basis. So continuing to our example, after 5 years, the lessee is intend to terminate the contract. So at this point, we need to prepare another Excel file that contains all the termination information as per example given. So this is our termination Excel. So as for the termination, we are going to use LU03. The classification variant, the lease agreement ID and lease ID should be remain the same as the inception contract. The contract start date is the effective termination date, which is after 5 years from the inception contract. It's 1st November 2023. And the contract end date is after 3 months service notice period from the effective termination date, which is 31st January 2024. The payment method and the payment cycle is the same as the inception contract. The status of the termination contract should be 2. The start date of the pricing start date and end date should be same as the contract date, the termination contract date, which is 1st November 2023 until 31st January 2024. And then no change to the pricing, which is 3,000, and also with the same interest rate. So now we are ready to load the termination contract by using the same T-code for the Excel upload. Browse the termination contract file and process it immediately. So now the termination contract has been successfully loaded. Let's see the change in the main dashboard by running T-code /cogn/16tc_LCD. Specify our contract number and press enter. Select our contract and click on lease schedule. So as you can see at the point of termination, which is November 2023, there are 3-month notice period. The remaining total rental of 9,000 will be paid out, and the asset depreciation is depreciated for 2,986 based on the new present value calculation. So the adjustment of the lease liability is 155,017 that calculated based on the lease liability plus interest in suspend, and the gain or loss, which is 19,696, is calculated based on the additional of ending lease liability and asset balance, where you can see at the cumulative section right here, and specify the month before the termination, which is October 2023. So here you can see before the termination, the balance for lease liability is 186,000 minus interest suspend to 24,998 is equal to 161,003, and the asset balance, which is ROU, is 273,499 minus depreciation of 132,191 is equal to 141,307. So the differences between these two is equal to gain or loss, which is 19,696. So this is how we simulate the termination case. So for our fourth use case, which is tiered pricing, which is pretty easy to understand. So basically, the pricing in the contract can be the same or split based on the tiered pricing with different period that has been recognized at the commencement date. Tiered pricing period must be in between contract period and must not overlapping. So let's see the example given in the next slide. So here, let's assume a lessee has taken a space in office building for 10 years with a rental of 1,000 currency unit, and after 7 years, the second term rental increased to 1,200 payable at the beginning of each month. The lease commences on 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2028. And the incremental borrowing rate is 6% per annum at the commencement date. So from this example, we can see that in this contract has tiered pricing, where at the 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2025, the rental is 1,000 currency unit, and the subsequent period until the end of the lease agreement, the pricing starts to increase to 1,200 currency unit. So all we need to do is prepare the Excel file for the inception to be loaded in the engine and see how the engine captures it. So for the contract which contain tiered pricing, we need to have a multiple row based on the tiered pricing. The contract information must be exactly the same. The difference is only the pricing information, for example, pricing date, invoice amount, and also rate. So let's go through one by one. For this use case, we have multiple row for which using the same use case, which is LU01. The classification and list type remain the same. The lease agreement ID is the original contract number L, and it must be the same for all row. And then contract start date is from 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2028. The payment method is in advance and the payment cycle is in monthly. So let's see the pricing information. So right here, as you can see, for the first row, the start date is 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2025. The pricing is 1,000 currency unit. For the subsequent period starting from 1st January 2026 until the end of lease term, the pricing is 1,200 currency unit, both using the same incremental borrowing rate of 6%. 6%. So now we go back to Excel upload program. Browse the tiered pricing Excel and execute with process immediately. So go back to the main dashboard to see the detail. Specify one to see the latest contract created in the engine. So this is our contract number 19683. Select this contract and click on the schedule. So here you can see from the total rental for this contract is 127,200. That will be amortized for the beginning of the contract until 31st December 2025. The rental is equal to 1,000 currency unit. And from the subsequent period until the end of the lease agreement, the rental has been increased to 1,200 currency unit. And as for the ROU asset, it has been calculated based on the present value with total amount of 95,570 currency unit. And it will depreciate for 797 for over 10 years. So that's it, how we simulate the tiered pricing in the Hamilton engine. And for the last use case for today is cumulative catch-up adjustment or backdated. Where all of you know that a contract is only finalized in the period subsequent to the contract commencement or effective date. Thus, at the point where the contract has been finalized, the cumulative number is being recorded as an adjustment at the current period, and any accrual posting in the past is reversed. So to understand the cumulative catch-up adjustment, let's assume that the lessor may agree to provide the right-of-use asset to the lessee earlier than the date of signing. So the rental is 1,000 currency unit per month payable at the beginning of each month. The lease commences on 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2028 with the incremental borrowing rate of 6%. And then the lessee signed the contract on 1st July 2019 after utilized the asset for 7 months. So this is just a normal inception, and I will show you the cumulative effect in the engine after we load it. So first we need to prepare the Excel file as usual. For inception case, the use case is LU01. The classification, variant, and lease ID remains as it is. The lease agreement ID and header ID is the original contract number from the external. The contract start date is 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2028. The payment method is in advance and the payment cycle is in monthly. As the pricing date is the same as the contract date, which is 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2028 with the invoice amount of 1,000 currency unit and the interest rate 6% per annum. So now let's load this contract into the engine. So here, just browse your file as usual. And then before we execute, we need to activate the cumulative catch-up calculation to current month, which is 1st July 2019 based on our example given. And then execute with process immediately as usual. And now the contract is created. Let's go to the dashboard to see the details. Specify one, select this contract and click on list schedule. So now you can see showing in contract period where we will show from 1st January 2019 until 31st December 2028 based on the lease agreement. To see the cumulative impact, we have to switch the schedule view to contract period by clicking this button at the top of the screen and select posting period. And now you can see that the contract is supposed to post every month from January until the end. But based on our example that this contract is finalized in July after the asset being utilized for 7 months. Then it becomes cumulative effect where all the amounts starting from January to July will be aggregated in the current month. So at the month of July 2019, the total lease liability after deduct the rental for 7 months is equal to 113,000 currency unit, and it will amortize for 1,000 currency unit for the next subsequent month. While as for the ROU asset is calculated based on the present value, which is 120,000 currency unit. And the total depreciation from January to July is equal to 6,980 currency unit. And it will depreciate for 998 for the next period. So I think that's it from me. Thank you for attending this webinar and spend time with us. So I will pass back to Budi and Priyanka. Thank you.
Thank you, Jati. Priyanka?
This time, we want to know if y'all have any questions that we can address. So please feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions. So as Budi mentioned, there are many use cases in our lease transactions. So in our session today, we only covered 5 of them. We will have another session that will cover reports and disclosures. we will definitely send out that invitation shortly. Also, we have one question, Budi, from Mr. Wong. If you could go ahead and say your question, we will address it.
Hi, hello. This is
Hello,
Wong
Howard.
here. Hi, I'm good. So, quick question. I noticed that on some use cases, you actually use a pre-configured a function to address the use case. But on some of other use case, you actually have to load data into the system. Is there any like differences? Is the configuration already set up in Hamilton pre-configured when the implementation is done, or it is something that will be actually executed during the implementation? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wong. Yes, as you have noticed, there are many ways actually to load the data into Hamilton engine. One of them through Excel upload, or second one through a transaction directly in SAP. Actually, loading the data can be in both ways, right? So the pre-configured means we have a configured Hamilton engine to fulfill certain use cases, but in order to input the data to Hamilton engines, mainly we can use Excel, or we have interfaces to other third-party systems, or directly enter into the systems. What we have done today, we have demonstrated two ways from Excel and directly in SAP systems. But we have several options, including interfacing to other systems as well.
Okay, so does that mean that the those pre-configured functions are built in Hamilton, or this is something that you would actually configure and implement it during the implementation process itself? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, these use cases, all of them are configurable. Okay, it depends on the requirements from the clients. So we have quite a number of use cases in our repository. It's like a library. We have around, currently we have around 35 use cases applicable. So during the implementations, according to the use cases that we have it in our repository, and the client can choose which use cases applicable for them, right? And these 35 use cases basically use cases that written in the IFRS 16 guidance. Yes, if they choose all, yes, we can configure all because we have all these sample use cases as a pre-built use cases in Hamilton engines. But if they choose only a few of them, so we only activate some of them that are applicable for the project. Because all of them are configurable, including disclosures and reporting. And today, we discuss reporting and disclosures. We will have reporting and disclosures webinar. It's a very interesting one because our reportings, they are all configurable as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Go ahead, Mr. Januar. Would you please say your question?
Hello. I'm sorry
Hello.
again.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, thank you. I see that in the Excel file that you put the incremental borrowing rate. It is in the Excel. Is the incremental borrowing rate we usually put in in the interface file, or we put the rate in the use case or in a contract in the Hamilton.
Okay, thank you. So, incremental borrowing rate or interest rate, according to IFRS 16 guidance, there is a rule to determine interest rate. Okay, the first rule or the first priority, if interest rate mentioned specifically for that particular contract, then we have to use that interest rate. In the example given, when you see the demo and you just a demo, so in that demo, the interest rate specifically mentioned in that contract. However, in reality, okay, if the contract does not specify the interest rate, then the system will determine the interest rate from the master data, okay, from the interest rate defined as a master data according to the interest rate that the company has decided to use for that contract. And another interesting one, for the, if we maintain interest rate in the master data, we can even have, let's say, interest rate for 10 years, okay, with interest rate, let's say 5%, 6%. So we can have a scaling, okay, for the interest rate, different period, different tenure, different interest rate. So this is how we handle interest rate in Hamilton engine.
Oh, okay, so just to make it clear, so we can maintain it in the Hamilton, and if the contract specified, then the system will take will get the rate from the contract.
Exactly, you're right.
Yeah. I see. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Does anyone else have any questions? We'll be more than happy to address them. All right, I would personally like to thank everyone for joining us today. You will be receiving the recording for this webinar. It will also be on our websites at cognitusconsulting.com and hamilton.one. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please email me at pmeta@cognitusconsulting.com. This email is also on your invitation that you received. Also, I would like to inform everyone that Cognitus has launched our Hamilton engine on SAP App Center. Take a look at it and tell everyone that you know. Spread the word, and please email me if you have any questions. We will inform when our next Hamilton webinar will be, which we will be covering reports and disclosures. Thank you once again. Have a good day.